the next set of letters in the group, in this new Angular confinement system, obviously in the alphabet as well, we see the D, the C, the D, the E, and the F, because of course, the C and the E have the same kind of confinement pattern. So when we look at this, we see, let's go back to the C, we see the C and the E have the same confinement pattern, which is quite funny because quite a lot of these letters in their confinement structures have this sort of similarity in their Angular confinement patterns. Now, the D is a letter I get asked a lot about. Lots of people say to me, how do you write this letter? It's so confusing. And with the Angular confinement pattern that I've developed, a lot of people found that it really helped them to understand the balance. Now, just remember, this is my own script. It's my own invention for writing Copperplate script. It's a geometric construct. It's not an historical script, but it really does give you the basis for working with historical letter forms, because it gives you a framework so that you can see how the letters work. And then from there, you can jump off into the historical letters. So when we look at the D in my Angular confinement pattern, I will show you how it balances itself and how it works itself out. So we go and 1 and all the way across and back down and up and over and around, and you can come all the way back here following the pattern if you like, sort of making a snail's shell, but we'll see how different that looks off the grid and with a brush in a second. And the idea is that it is a sixth on this side of the line of universal beauty, and that means the foot is a sixth on this side of the spiral, because that's how it sort of balances itself in this script that I've developed. So there's the D. The E is you really need to get that muscular movement going, and you're traveling, put the tool down, touch the tangential to the box, and even though I have this a little bit higher, right on the halfway line, I tend to do the top of the E a little bit higher than that. For practical purposes, when you're practicing, you aim for this halfway line, which is on the X height, on the waistline, sorry. But that sort of really helps you to sort of focus the structure a little bit better. And then the F is obviously lower than the cap height. And up and stop there. So remember, we looked at that yesterday. And then I come all the way down to here, and I keep the top crossbar inside of the cap height. That's the reason why the line of universal beauty starts a parallelogram lower. And then I come up and down. So that's how it fits into the Angular confinement pattern. Now, when you move to writing it, so I've gotten a bunch of Kuretake Cambios out. So let's use a different color. The green is really lovely. So I am going to put this above where I'm working so I can see it. I'm going to use the green, and so this is what the D looks like. Now remember, stay within the lines. D. And you can really see how they work. So the marker is bleeding a little bit because I am working on the brush pen's bleeding a little bit because I'm working on a napkin. And of course, there are different densities of pigmentation. And as well, you know, when you're working with a brush, there are different things to consider. So for instance, you'll probably notice that this is at a tilted angle. And this is a little bit wider. So there is a wider grid that I've developed for this as well. And you'll also note that this is, instead of coming down and up and across, this is also slightly tilted. So sometimes the tool will really affect the way in which the letter is written. So that's the next set of letters in the alphabet, and of course the next set of letters on the grid, which really sort of helps to pull the letters together, and they really help, the grid really helps you to plot the letters. Now, a lot of people have said to me in the past that they find this system a little bit mathematical. And, you know, I'm not asking you to do calculus. I'm just asking you to follow the grid. So when you look at the grid, is it in the middle of the line? Is it at the top of the line? Where is the curve touching the grid? And by working within the grid, it really helps you to plot the lines a lot more accurately, so that at the end of the practice, you really understand where the letter sits within this confinement pattern. So at no point are you guessing about the letters. You're not guessing where the shapes are. You're not guessing where the tool has to aim for to get a really balanced shape. So all of the majuscules are structured like this, as are the minuscules, and the numbers, and the punctuation. And in this workbook, I'm also going to include some geometric constructs using the Angular Confinement pattern to teach you how basic flourishing works. Because once you apply this Angular Confinement pattern to the flourishes, as I showed you with the balancing serif, you really start to see where you're struggling with the flourishes and where the flourishes are lacking balance and structure.